I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. On today's video, we're going to look at my favorite amp model in the AXFX3, as well as all the variations on that model, the USA Lead Mid-Gain. This is a model of the Mesa Boogie Mark IV on the mid-gain mode. If you're familiar with those amps, or Mark series amps in general, you know they have a lot of different switches and options available to change the voicing of the amp. So this USA Lead Mid-Gain is the lead channel of this 3-channel amplifier. It has the mid-gain switch engaged, and it has the presence shift, which on the real amp is a push-pull control, off. This is what it sounds like where I've got it dialed in. So gain at 6, overdrive at 10, bass and mid quite low, treble cranked up, presence and master volume at noon. The tone stack in these amps is before the main gain stages, and you basically use these 3 controls here to shape the character of the gain. Then you use the 5-band output EQ to sculpt it. So it looks like there's not a lot of mid-range in there. You know, the mids are quite low here, and then I've pulled out the 750, but they're a very, very mid-heavy amplifier, and doing this gets you one of the most glorious, chunky guitar sounds possible. Now, I love the way that sounds. It is so articulate and tight, and there's so much gain on there. It is a glorious sounding amp. The real amp gives you a 2-way switch for the overall voicing of the channel. You've got mid-gain, but you've also got a so-called Harmonics mode in here. So the Harmonics mode is just called USA Lead. Furthermore, there is a bright and a non-bright variation of these, as you could probably guess, modeled as either mid-gain or mid-gain bright, and then you've got lead or lead bright. On top of that, you can choose to engage the presence shift. So just with those options, there are 8 different voicings available. And what I've done here is I've populated channels A to D on amp 1 with the USA Lead mid-gain variations. So there's straight up lead mid-gain, there's the bright switch, and then each of those 2 options with the presence shift on. We'll talk about what the presence shift does in a little bit. Then on amp number 2, I've done the same thing with USA Lead, its bright mode, and the presence shift options over there. So what I'm going to do, because we've got this gapless switching in the AXFX3 now, is I've prepared a loop of a big chunky riff. Let me know if you recognize this one in the comments section below. And I'm going to cycle through the 8 different voicings on here. I have set all the controls, all the output EQ, all the advanced features exactly the same. I've just compensated for the slight level difference when the presence shift is in. Let's hear the 8 different voicings. Let's talk about those differences, what I heard anyway, and I would encourage you to go back and listen to that clip and draw your own conclusions on there. I feel like everybody's going to have a different preference on here, but the main difference in there is engaging the presence shift or bypassing it on there. So for example, with the lead mid-gain mode, if I swap between channel A and channel C, you'll hear that that presence shift, while it drops the overall level, at the settings that I've got it with the presence at noon, it kind of adds this razor sharp high end to the sound. There's a lot more, I don't call it fizz, but there's a lot more cut in there, and it's great for those kind of really aggressive palm mutes and down picking, whereas the standard lead mid gain with the presence shift off is like a little bit fatter and smoother. Now, my personal preference is for a slightly fatter, smoother sound, but if you were playing thrash metal or some modern stuff where you want to really cut through, or if you were playing in a 2-guitar band as opposed to me, I normally play in a 1-guitar band, you might like that presence shift on. And it's really interesting having a listen to the extra range the presence shift gives you in there. So I'll stay on this USA lead mid-gain bright. I'll play that loop again, and I'll just sweep the presence control on the standard mid-gain bright, and then with the presence shift on or off. And you're going to get that same difference going from the standard USA lead or the Harmonics mode on the amp with the presence shift on or off. I find it really interesting that with the presence below noon, hitting the presence shift makes the amp darker, but when it's at noon or above, it kind of makes everything brighter. So that is one to keep in mind depending on the type of tone you are going for. And much like the real amp, these models are so versatile. Again, I've kind of gone for this classic scooped tone out of it with the output EQ really pulling out some of this 750. But if you wanted more of the mid-range heavy liquid lead out of it, these tips are going to apply equally well. The other big difference in there is between the mid-gain mode and the standard USA lead mode. So I'm going to stay on the bright mode for both of these, and I'll just go between mid-gain bright and mid-gain, sorry, and non-mid-gain bright on there. So mid-gain bright and just standard lead bright. The mid-gain has this slightly more smooth, saturated quality to it that I'm really, really drawn to. Again, try all of these. I'm going to put this preset up so you can download it and instantly access all of these. 8 different voicings on there, and that's not even talking about the fat switch on the real amps, which again, is going to add another set of voicings in here. So I guess if you count the fat switch, you're going to have 16 different voicings total from this real world amp and the equivalent models in here. So I have assigned a control switch to the fat switch under the ideal tab on both of these amp models in here. What I'm going to do is just roll with USA lead mid-gain bright for now. I'll let you hear it with and without the fat switch. Then I'm going to kick in this quad detune to give me some big greasy detune and a dual delay on here for a lead sound. Basically, kicking in the fat switch takes this super tight, aggressive awesome rhythm guitar amp for metal and rock and turns it into a beast for leads. Check it out. So essentially there are 4 different options you can explore on this using any of these models as a starting point. You've got the harmonics or mid-gain voicing. So USA lead corresponds to harmonics, USA lead mid-gain corresponds to mid-gain. You've got the bright or non-bright options on each of those. You've got the presence shift option on each of those, and you've got the fat switch option on all of those. With that, which the real amp can't do, you can seamlessly switch between them. Grab this preset. There are 8 scenes with the 8 main voicings that I described earlier, and then there's a control switch set as a per preset override, so you can kick in the fat switch on any of those, and you can get some of the most glorious high gain tones you've ever heard in your life. I love this set of amp models so much, and I'd love to know your thoughts on them. Are you similarly enamored with the USA lead amps, or do you prefer maybe the JP2C, the Triaxis models, or the 2C Plus models when it comes to a great Mark series tone? If you've got any other questions, let me know in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.